Please leave a comment where in the world you are listening from. So seriously, I should have been one of those Netflix specials by now. You know, she thought she was just going on a Tinder date, but what happened next will shock you. So a couple of months ago, I was in one of those moods, post-breakup, eating ice cream straight out of the tub, and scrolling through TikTok until your thumb goes numb. My friends had been nagging me to get back out there and meet someone new, so I figured why not. I downloaded Tinder, told myself it was just for fun, and started swiping. That's when I matched with Ethan. Ethan was, well, let's just say he had the kind of rugged, outdoorsy vibe that makes you think, this man has definitely chopped wood shirtless before. His pictures were all hot guy starter pack, hiking in the mountains, holding a dog, classic move, and one artsy black and white shot where he was staring off into the distance like he was contemplating life, or maybe just trying to figure out how to spell charcuterie. His bio was short and sweet: photographer, adventurer, lover of scary movies and late-night conversations. Let's grab a drink and talk about life. Now, I'm a sucker for scary movies and guys with beards, so obviously I swiped right. We started chatting, and surprise, surprise, he was actually funny. Like, genuinely funny. Not the LOL I give out of politeness funny, but the kind where I was actually laughing at his messages. He made a joke about how his dog was his most stable relationship, and I was hooked. After a few days of texting, Ethan asked me out for dinner. He suggested this cute Italian place downtown, and I thought, wow, a guy who knows how to plan a date? This is promising. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. The night of the date, I did the usual pre-date routine, tried on 14 different outfits, curled my hair twice, and spent way too long debating whether red lipstick was hot or trying too hard. By the time I left the house, I was feeling pretty good. When I got to the restaurant, Ethan was already there, waiting outside. He looked just like his photos, which was a relief because, let's be real, the bar for online dating is please don't catfish me. He gave me this big, warm smile and said, "Hey, you made it." The first half of the date was fine. Great, even. We ordered wine, shared some garlic bread, and talked about everything from our favorite movies to the weirdest things we'd ever eaten. He said kangaroo. I said a gas station hot dog at 3 a.m. Ethan was charming, attentive, and had this way of making me feel like I was the only person in the room. But then about halfway through the meal, things started to get weird. It started small. Ethan kept glancing over my shoulder, like he was watching someone, or something, behind me. At first, I thought maybe he was just nervous or distracted, but it kept happening. Every few minutes, his eyes would flicker to the side, and his smile would falter just a little. "Is everything okay?" I finally asked, trying to sound casual. "Oh yeah," he said, waving it off. "Just thought I saw someone I know." I let it go because, honestly, I didn't want to ruin the vibe. But then, when the waiter came by to refill our drinks, Ethan asked for the check. "Already?" I asked, laughing. "What? Are you allergic to good pasta?" He smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. "Nah, just thought we could go somewhere quieter. You know, talk more without all the noise." Now, this is where most people would probably think, that's kind of weird. But my dumb brain was like, wow, he really wants to get to know me. How sweet. After we left the restaurant, Ethan suggested we go for a walk. It was a nice night, and the area was pretty busy, so I didn't think much of it. We strolled down the street, talking about random stuff, and eventually ended up in this little park. Here's the thing about parks at night. They're either super romantic or super creepy, and this one was leaning hard toward creepy. The streetlights were dim, the trees cast these long, spooky shadows, and there was this weird, eerie quiet that made my skin crawl. But Ethan didn't seem bothered at all. If anything, he seemed excited. "This is nice, huh?" he said, looking around. "Yeah, super cozy," I said, trying to sound chill while also glancing over my shoulder every 5 seconds. Then he stopped walking, turned to me, and said, "Hey, let me show you something." Now at this point, my gut was like, girl, do not follow this man. But my brain, powered by years of bad decisions and horror movie naivety, thought, what's the worst that could happen? Ethan led me down this little path, away from the main part of the park. The further we went, the darker it got, and the more I started to regret every life choice that had led me to this moment. "Where are we going?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light even though my heart was pounding. "You'll see," he said, flashing me a grin that, in hindsight, was way too confident. We finally stopped in this clearing, and Ethan pointed to something on the ground. It was a small black bag, like one of those gym bags people use to carry their stuff. "What's that?" I asked, my voice a little shaky. "Just something I left here earlier," he said, crouching down to unzip it. Okay, let me pause here and say, this was the moment I should have run. Like full-on sprinted back to civilization. But instead, I just stood there frozen as Ethan pulled out duct tape. I wish I could tell you I handled this situation like a badass. I wish I'd grabbed a rock and knocked him out or screamed for help. But no, my fight or flight response decided to take a third option. Stand there like an idiot and pray this isn't happening. What's that for? I asked, my voice cracking. Ethan looked up at me, and for a split second, his charming facade slipped. His expression turned cold, calculating. Oh, don't worry, he said, his tone way too casual. It's not for you. Not for me. What kind of answer is that? At this point, my brain finally caught up with the situation, and I did what any self-respecting person would do. I lied my ass off. Oh my God, I said, clutching my stomach. I think I'm gonna be sick. Ethan blinked, clearly caught off guard. What? Yeah, I think that pasta didn't agree with me, I said, doubling over for dramatic effect. I need to go. Like now. He hesitated for a second, then sighed and said, All right, let me walk you back. But I wasn't about to let him get me alone again. No, it's fine, I said quickly. I'll call an Uber. I didn't wait for him to argue. I pulled out my phone, pretended to call a ride, and started speed walking back toward the main street. The whole way back, I could feel Ethan watching me. He didn't follow, but I swear I could hear his footsteps just behind mine, soft and deliberate. When I finally made it to the main road, I turned around, and he was gone. I got in the first Uber I saw and didn't stop shaking until I was home. This took place a while ago, 2015-ish, but I'll probably never forget it. I, around 21 at the time, female, was still fairly new in my city. I had just gotten out of a bad relationship, wasn't in the best place mentally, and didn't know a lot of people in town besides my ex and his friends. I was on a dating/hookup app looking for people to hang out casually with, maybe find a FWB or something. I had matched with a 25-year-old guy, Simon. We talked sporadically in the app for a few days. He explained he was in a band and living in a house with his bandmates. He sent me their music. It was just audio on YouTube with a heavily edited still image of 4 or 5 guys playing rock instruments. One of them looked like him. The music was an interesting combination of styles and not really for me, but whatever, he seemed like a nice enough guy. He stopped replying for a few days, and I figured that was that, moved on. Then one day I was at work and got a message from him saying sorry, he'd been so busy, and inviting me to a barbecue with his friends and bandmates in their yard. He had explained that their band manager was providing them the house to live in. Based on the lack of views on the YouTube video, and the fact I only saw one photo of him playing in the band, I figured he was probably exaggerating the band manager thing. I thought it was more likely something along the lines of a bar manager friend, giving them a discount on rent in exchange for being a house band at their bar or something, and didn't think much of it beyond that. Normally I would have just said no to going to a barbecue alone at the home of someone I really didn't know. But I was really bored and figured I might be able to overcome some social anxiety and maybe even make some female friends there since he made it sound like a pretty big party. I put the neighborhood he gave me into maps, and it was a suburban or with lots of families as far as I knew. I figured being in a yard on such a nice summer day wouldn't be overly risky because lots of neighbors would be outside. Plus it was just a few train stops away from my workplace, and I was off in a few hours. I did tell him I wasn't overly comfortable with the idea since I didn't know him well, but I would stop by for a bit if I didn't need to go inside the house at all. He said that was totally fine, which made me feel a lot better. I even made sure to not drink anything for the rest of my shift, so I wouldn't be risking needing to go inside to use the bathroom. I was anxious about just showing up to a barbecue with people I didn't know at all, as he implied that the event was already underway. Plus I would have had a hard time finding a specific address from the backyard side, so I asked Simon if he could meet me at the train station since he said it was a quick walk anyway. He agreed to do that, and I let him know when I was leaving work and what time maps said the train would get to his station. I sent Simon a message to tell him that I had arrived at the train station around 5:30 after I looked around and couldn't find him. He told me he was running behind and to just start walking toward the neighborhood. I was about halfway across the massive train station parking lot when I saw him slowly wandering toward me. I recognized his clothes, wearing bell-bottoms when they were not common, especially for men, and long hair from far away, but up close his face looked pretty different from his photos. It might have been some heavy-duty editing, I don't even know, but he kinda looked like a different guy. Older looking than the 25-year-old guy in the photos by 5 to 10 years. Maybe used photos of his brother or something. I don't even know, it was before AI. This was the first real red flag, but I brushed it off. Maybe he's just self-conscious. Maybe he smokes a lot and doesn't wear sunscreen and hasn't taken pictures in a while. All of his pictures looked candid, so I figured he wasn't much of a selfie guy. And besides, I'm mostly here to make friends anyway, so I shouldn't judge his appearance so harshly. He was also clearly already drunk, but a lot of my ex's friends were heavy drinkers, so that didn't seem strange. He's hosting a barbecue after all. The second red flag came shortly after when we arrived at the front door. I reminded him that I wasn't comfortable going inside the house, but he assured me we would just have to walk through to get to the backyard. Okay, fine. It wasn't the kind of neighborhood where you could just walk around the house to get to the backyard. We would have had to backtrack to the main road to go down the alley directly to the backyard. I figured he just forgot what I said about not wanting to go inside and didn't want to cause a bunch of trouble, so I went with it. We got in the house and he immediately closed the door and locked the deadbolt and knob behind me. I didn't think that was too weird since nobody was hanging out inside and a lot of people are just in the habit of locking the door when they come in, but it did still give me the heebie-jeebies for some reason. Then Simon then told me he'd really like to give me a tour of the house. I politely declined and reminded him that I was just there for the barbecue. He said that he and his bandmates had worked really hard to get the house and he was really proud of it. At that point I was getting really skeptical, because usually when guys would tell me things that seemed a bit far-fetched, they'd let the truth slip by the time they got me to their house. But still, I convinced myself that I was being unreasonable. I was already in the stupid house anyway. He insisted it'd be quick. Not the wisest choice, I know. But I was pretty good at explaining away red flags, so at this point Simon still mostly had a dopey stoner art guy kind of vibe as far as I was concerned. He really didn't seem like a threat, just an insecure oddball who sucks at communicating and fibs a bit. Not unlike my ex, who was definitely emotionally and verbally abusive, but it never escalated past that. I figured at worst he'd get handsy, and I'd get called a prude for not sleeping with him. I didn't have a lot of self-worth at the time obviously, so I went with it. The tour started pretty uneventfully other than that the decor in the common areas was obviously chosen by a middle-aged Martha Stewart enthusiast, and not a bunch of guys in a band or their fake band manager. I didn't know if this should make me feel better or worse. On one hand, he was clearly lying, but on the other it made me think it was probably just someone's mom's house and she was out of town, and he didn't want to tell me he lived at a friend's parents' home and didn't actually have a paying job. Again, total red flag, but I could rationalize it at the time. The bedroom doors were all closed, bathroom was unremarkable. He then showed me the kitchen, and I finally saw through the window that there was nobody in the backyard. There weren't even barbecue supplies around. No burgers thawing on the counter, no cocktail supplies lying around, nothing. I asked him where everyone was and why he lied about the barbecue, and he told me that his bandmates were on tour still. They were just running behind due to van trouble, but they should be back any minute, so we could start the party. I asked him why he wasn't on tour with them if he's in the band. I don't even remember what his answer was to that, because it didn't make any sense. At this point I'm out of mental gymnastics to convince myself that this guy isn't just completely full of shit, and I'm really freaked out. It took me long enough. I'm smarter now, don't worry. I started trying to figure out a way to get out of this situation. I hoped that once he was done the tour we could go outside, even just for a minute, and I'd just leave. I'd been in some sketchy situations in the past, but luckily nothing so bad that they tried very hard to physically stop me when I walked away in a semi-public place. I just wasn't comfortable doing it inside the house. I knew this guy was full of shit, but I had no idea how much worse it would get. I instinctively pretended to believe his bullshit. He offered me a beer. I said no thanks because I had to work in the morning. He said okay and cracked one for himself. Then he wanted to take the tour downstairs. I could see from the top of the stairs that the basement was the dark and creepy kind with really small windows, so I refused. I asked if we could go back outside. He said after the tour. I tried to argue about going into the basement, told him I have a spider phobia, don't like basements, etc. All lies, but anything that wouldn't let him realize that he was what I was afraid of. He started to get agitated about my reluctance, so I figured it would be better to just let him show me the damn basement, and then hopefully we could go outside, because I really didn't know what else to do. The basement was fairly unremarkable. Couch, TV, elliptical. Until I noticed something that gave me chills. The house was probably built in the 1990s or late 80s at the absolute earliest, but I saw a door that looked just like the heavy, foam-lined door to the cold storage room in my grandma's house. The kind that only opened from the outside. It was just a smaller version of the big metal doors on commercial walk-in fridges. It looked really out of place in this house. I would absolutely not go anywhere near that door. He opened it and told me it was their soundproof music studio. I looked inside from a few meters away. It did indeed look soundproof. It was about the size of a bedroom, and I could see a few guitars and amps in it. Mattress toppers on the walls. No drum kit or recording equipment that I could see. He insisted I go inside to get a better look. He was standing outside the door motioning for me to go inside. Holy shit, the alarm bells are really going off now. At this point I realized I could totally die here if I'm not careful, and I turned around to run up the stairs. He closed the door and followed me, asking what's wrong, acting like I'm being all unreasonable for not wanting to see his soundproof music studio. So I'm realizing that this is a way sketchier situation than any of my ex's bullshit, and I'm freaked right out. At that point my main objective was getting out of the house. The front and back doors were both closed and locked, so if I tried to run he'd be able to get to me before I could get the locks open. The bathroom did not have a window. The house had a convoluted floor plan that I wasn't familiar with, and he was much bigger than I am. He was the tall, lanky type, who can run fast even if they're out of shape and smoke a pack a day. I pretended that I was okay with hanging out with him in the hopes that he'd chill out a bit. We made small talk for a few minutes. He cracked another beer, and thankfully he calmed down. I desperately mentioned yet again that it was beautiful outside, and suggested we go sit in the yard while we wait. He said no and started to get agitated that I wanted to leave already. I told him that I could stay, but I'd just really like to smoke a cigarette. He told me that we could smoke cigarettes inside, and pointed to a cereal bowl full of cigarette butts. God damn it. We sat down at the table and lit some cigarettes. As he was smoking, he started rolling a joint, which he promptly lit as soon as his cig was done. He offered me some, and I said no thanks. He insisted, so I took the smallest puff I could. I'm a pretty seasoned weed smoker, but I pretended to cough excessively and told him I'm a novice, so that's more than enough for me. For a liar himself, he thankfully wasn't very good at picking up on the lies of others. After we smoked, he asked if I'd like to watch a movie until his bandmates get back. I told him that I was really looking forward to spending the day outside, and suggested we go for a walk or visit the park. Ideas he did not like or appreciate. At this point I was trying to keep as much distance as possible between us, but he stayed close enough to me that I could smell the beer on his breath. He grabbed me by the waist, and then I backed away and asked about the barbecue food to try and change the subject and make him think I still believed what he was telling me. He started to get angry again, and sternly reiterated that his bandmates should be home any minute, and my anxiety was absolutely through the roof. I tried to calm him down again with generic small talk. Now I don't know how I got so lucky, but the next thing that happened might have saved me. Simon went to the fridge to get another beer and pulled out an empty box. At this point he's getting even more pissed off than before, so I went out on a limb and suggested we go get some more beer for the party, because I was out of ideas. I was terrified that it would enrage him even more to suggest, once again, that we leave the house, but I had to try. Thankfully, though, his eyes lit up with the possibility that I could actually be down to drink with him, and he agreed. As we were walking to the liquor store, I still didn't really have a plan, because I was no longer comfortable just walking away from this fucking menace in this weirdly desolate suburb. But I was extremely relieved to be out of that house. I walked with him to the liquor store, and when we got there told him I didn't need to go inside if he was just going to go grab some beer. He insisted that I had to go inside. At that point I was so stressed and frazzled, I just went with him and hoped that a good opportunity to leave would arise. When we got inside the liquor store, he asked what kind of beer I wanted. I reminded him that I had to work tomorrow and didn't want to drink much. He demanded to know what kind of beer I wanted, so I just named the first one that came to mind. We went to pay. The cashier was kind of an asshole, so I didn't ask for help. I probably should have, but I panicked and didn't. I hoped there might be somebody in the parking lot who might help me if I made a scene, but there was nobody. I really regretted not asking the liquor store guy for help, but also remembered the times my ex told people I was crazy, so they wouldn't take me seriously. Liquor store guy definitely seemed like he would have fell for that, so probably for the best I didn't expect him to help me. I had one last idea before I took my chances just trying to run and or scream. There was a drugstore across from the liquor store. I told Simon I had to go buy a toothbrush or some shit that vaguely implied I might stay over. He eagerly agreed to this, but tried to follow me into the store. I told him that you're not allowed to bring beer into a drugstore. I don't know if that's even true. I really doubt it's any kind of law, but luckily this drunk douchebag believed it and agreed to wait outside. Now, my naive ass thought maybe I could just wander around in this drugstore for long enough, and he would either get the hint or get sketched out or bored and leave. But no, I must have wandered around the store for at least half an hour, and this jackass is still just standing there staring in the window. This creep didn't even have his phone out. Every time I checked if he was still there, he was just staring through the window looking for me. I didn't feel like I had anybody I could call in the city to come help me. The cops here don't usually take things like this very seriously, and the store workers looked like they were mostly high school students, and I didn't want to drag them into this, so I really didn't feel like I had a lot of options. After being in there for so long, I was surprised he didn't come in to see what was taking me so long. I thought maybe I could lose him in the aisles and sneak out of the store if he did come in, but nope. I ended up hovering around the tills and waited until a big group of friendly-looking people were paying. I followed them out of the store and immediately told Simon to leave me alone and go home. I said it firmly and loudly enough to imply that I would make a scene if need be. Simon looked at the people getting in their car, who were now pausing and looking at us because I had nearly yelled at him, and then he just turned around and left. It was bizarrely anticlimactic, which I was very thankful for. I ran to the train station, which thankfully was in a different direction than his house from the store, and I never heard from him again. When I got home, his app profile had either blocked me or been deleted. Years later, after I stopped compartmentalizing the whole thing, I wish I would have reported him or something. It bothers me to wonder if he tried it again with someone else, but made sure the fridge was stocked first. But at the time I didn't think anybody would take me seriously. I was embarrassed of my choices, and I just wanted to move on from the whole thing. Plus, all I really had was a likely fake first name and a general idea of where the house was, which probably wasn't even his. I'll probably never know any more than I do now, and maybe that's for the best. Anyway, Simon, you lying POS, let's not meet. In my early 20s, I met a man on a hookup app and agreed to go to a barbecue he and his bandmates were hosting at their house in the suburbs. When I met up with him, he was really drunk, looked different from his photos, his bandmates were nowhere to be found, and the decor in the house didn't look like it was theirs. He locked the door and got angry every time I asked to go outside. After a tour of the house that included a soundproof music studio and no evidence of a barbecue, I was able to escape by suggesting we visit the liquor store together after he ran out of beer, and telling him to leave me alone once we were around a group of people. 2008. Met what I initially thought was a cute and interesting guy in a tattoo shop. Had a brief conversation, he seemed fun, we swapped numbers. Over the course of a week we talked on the phone a few times, texted, during which he seemed smart, funny, well traveled. We set up a date for drinks at a pub halfway between our respective homes on a Wednesday night. He turns up stumbling, reeking of alcohol. I'm immediately turned off, but give him the benefit of the doubt, thinking maybe he's just nervous and had a couple of drinks. But as we sit down and start talking, I realize he's not so much drunk as high as a kite. And he drove there. Proceed to have a drink together. I'm here now, right? And he's talking very fast, non-stop, tells me he has 2 children he never sees, and proceeds to unload bitterly about his ex-baby mama. He keeps leaning in closer, even though I have given no interested signals. His personality is nothing like the phone conversations we have had at all. This went on for maybe half an hour, during which I had 2 drinks and he downed 6 beers. So I go to the loose and come back saying I'm feeling tired and I'm going to head home since I have work the next day. He invites me to come and have a lie down back at my place, giving me the address, and then tells me it is actually a caravan parked out the front of his friend's place, which has everything but a bathroom, so we can just shower in the house the next morning. I decline politely. He offers to walk me to my car. I say no thanks, I'm good, as I'm literally 3 car spaces from the pub door. Proceeds to stumble there with me anyway, then gets between me and the driver's door, still babbling away, and leans in for a kiss. I'm like, okay, let's get this over with fast, or I won't be able to open my car door. Give him the tightest, close-lipped peck and get in the car. He is still leaning on the door and trying to kiss me again through the car window. I'm like, well, gotta go and drive home. During the 30-minute drive home, my phone pings with 3 texts. I get in and read them. They're all from him. Let me know when you get home safe. Are you home yet? Well, I'm thinking, how did this date go? And yeah, I would like to see you again, lol. So I just text back, sorry, but no thanks. Put my phone, old Nokia, it's 2008, on silent on charge in the living room, and go to bed. In the morning my phone has blown up with missed calls and maybe 30 texts from this clown which range from, "Why can't we have a second date?" to "Why won't you answer?" to, "Oh, so you think you're too good for me? Go to hell, bitch," to "Look, sorry, I didn't mean that, but why won't you give me a chance and get to know me?" I was stunned. I just ignored all of it. 2008, couldn't block a number like now. And it actually went on for 2 weeks, a few missed calls and a barrage of texts until finally he gave up. What a complete pain in the arse. Met a guy on Bumble when I was in college and chatted for a few days. He asked me out on a date and wanted to take me to a cocktail bar. I declined that spot as I'm not a drinker, also why a cocktail bar on first meeting. Said he'll find something else. Day comes and he demands my address to send an Uber. I declined, said I'll drive myself. Obviously for safe measures, if something went wrong I would be able to leave when I wanted. He insisted and demanded I not bring a car. I was annoyed and sent an address down the street from me and waited there to be picked up. I got dolled up and hoped for the best. Unsure where the destination was, 2 the Uber stops and lo, and behold it's the damn cocktail bar that I said no to. My mood went back down instantly. I walk in and call him to see where he is, and he tells me he's not there yet. He lives down the street, so he was going to get ready and walk when I arrived. Once again I was annoyed. It took him about 10 to 15 minutes to walk to the bar. He walks in in his gym attire, some super short-ass shorts and an old tee. He mentioned he came from the gym like an hour ago and was chilling until the date. I was once again annoyed and at this point lost interest that he didn't bother to even change. The menu is handed over, and of course I don't look at it cause I don't drink. He asks what would I like, it's on him. I repeat again that I do not like drinking. He acts surprised as if we didn't have this conversation prior to meeting, when I had declined the initial offer to meet at a bar. Mind you, this cocktail bar was a themed one. The menu was full of cocktails based on local things like the college or characters, etc. The only food on the menu was like some bread and charcuterie board type foods. I wasn't interested. Anyway, we're in there for about 15 minutes, as he ordered 2 drinks, one for himself and me. I took a small sip, and then watched him down both small glasses. We then leave. He asks me if I want to go back to his place. I say no. He then asks why. I say 'cause I don't want to, and we don't know each other well. He then says, "Okay, let's go see a movie." I say sure, a movie won't hurt, maybe I'm overreacting. He calls an Uber. We get in. The ride lasts about 5 minutes. I know that there is no movie theater this close. The Uber pulls into an apartment complex. My heart drops. I'm over it. We hop out the car, and he pulls me through the lobby. I'm making a sour face, and he questions me. I tell him that I made it clear that I did not want to come to your apartment. He says his apartment has a huge TV room, and he'll put on a movie for us to watch. That's not what I was expecting when he said, "Let's go to the movies." Now I'm really regretting not having my car on hand. I reluctantly sit in the TV room, and he puts on some kiddie YouTube show. He likes engrossed in it. I'm confused. He then tries to turn my face for a kiss, but is constantly distracted by the YouTube show staring at it while trying to pull me closer. As I keep pulling away, he asks why I won't let him kiss me. I say, "Why should I? I don't know you." He's offended now and storms out. I see this as my chance of escape, so I run out after a minute and head down the first staircase I see. I run to the bottom and hide under the stairs before I leave. Since I'm unsure of my location, I wanted to see what's nearby, and if I was near a bus stop or a restaurant to hide in. I wait about 5 minutes, and he is blowing up my phone. I put it on D&D. I run out and immediately start heading towards my heaven. I make it down the street, and I hear someone yelling. I don't turn around. There's lots of college kids being loud. Then I hear my name. "Fuck me, bro." He runs UPS to me as I reach an intersection, so I have to stop. He like, "Where'd you go? Where are we walking right now?" I'm like, "I'm going home." He freaks out on me, saying I should have told him I don't drink. I should have told him that I didn't want to come back to his apartment, which I did. He then says, "I called you, and you didn't answer. Show me your phone right now." Did you block me? Show me your phone. Mind you, all of this is coming from a man I just met a few hours ago in person. I walk off only telling him that for starters I don't owe him anything, especially not access to my phone. And secondly, that he made me highly uncomfortable and I will not be seeing him again. I walk away for about 20 minutes to make sure he wasn't following me, and then I called an Uber back home. Matched with this guy. We talked for a little bit, and we didn't really seem to have anything in common, so I didn't plan on going out with him. When I finally did decline, he threw a fit and pestered me, promising a lovely night out and to just give him a chance. That should have been my first clue. Now, at this point in my life, I was admittedly very picky about guys I'd go out with, and this guy as well as my roommates encouraged me to just go because maybe I'm missing out on nice people. Fine. We go to sushi. No attraction. Nothing in common. Horrible conversation. Every time I tried to lead with a subject, he ended it. What's your favorite restaurant? I don't know. Did you play any sports? No, the conversation was a dead end at every turn. Had a terrible time, good sushi though. I insisted I pay half the bill, and we walked out. Then he grabbed me by the arm aggressively, insisting we go to Starbucks for coffee. I said no thank you, I just ate. I'm very full. I have a test tomorrow, whatever. But he literally overpowered me and pulled me in and sat us down at a table. Now I was freaked out. We sat awkwardly, silently. I asked, "Are you getting coffee or?" He smiled and said, "No, I don't want any." I said, "Okay, so why are we he?" And he slipped his hand between my thighs and credit carded me under the table. I was mortified and moved away. I said, "I am going to go home now." I thank God I drove separately. As I got to my car, he asked, "So when can we go out again?" I almost laughed at him, but I was polite because I'm a huge pussy. I said, "Well, you're very nice, Lai, but we don't have much in common and I didn't really feel the chemistry, but thanks for showing me a new sushi restore." "You fucking cunt. You're just the same as all women. I thought you were different. You dumb bimbo piece of shit. Fuck you." I got in my car and left. When I got home, I had many texts from him and his roommate. From date guy, I got a lot of "fuck you," and from the roommate I got a few angry/concerned ones like, "My roommate came home really upset and pissed. What the fuck did you do to him? You're a bitch." I literally had no idea people could be like that. It really soured my Tinder experience, but I had fun laughing at the texts with my own roommates. Credit carded means he swiped up my lady bits with a flat hand, like a credit card in a slot. I meet a girl on Tinder. I think I won her over with my jokes about loving dirty socks and old Greg. We talk for a while and finally decide to go to a lake. We both love nature. We go meet, hug, and sit down on a blanket by the lake. We talk for a bit. After about 10 minutes, I hear a splat. She looks down and laughs. I look down at her leg. There, sitting there on her right leg, is a big, white, pebbly bird shit. I ask, "Did a bird just shit on your leg?" She says, "Yes," and laughs again. Before the date, we promised no bullshit. We must be ourselves. I don't think before I catch myself wiping the bird shit off her leg with my hand. I go to the lake, wash my hand off, and go sit back down. We have a little laugh, talk for another couple hours, and decide to call it a night. We go back to our cars, and I go to give her the goodbye. I wasn't sure if I should give her a hug or kiss at this point. I didn't want to be invasive. As I'm hugging her and thinking about the kiss, I start to get a boner. I start to regret the decision to wear athletic shorts. I think I have two options: turn around after the hug and walk back to my car, try to conspicuously tuck the boner into my waistline of my athletic shorts, and go for the kiss. I go for option 3. I'm getting a boner, I can't keep hugging you. We laugh. I hug her again and say, "I'll talk to you soon." We promised we'd be honest. But on my way back to my car I just keep thinking, shit, too honest, too honest. I turn on my car and wait to see if she's going to leave first. Then she gets out of her car and walks towards me with something in her hands. I roll down my window. "You forgot the banana bread I made you." I couldn't believe I made her come back to the awkwardness to make her give me the banana bread she made for me. I take it from her, we both still laugh a bit about the boner thing, and I put the banana bread on my passenger seat. Then, and this is the part one still can't believe, she leans in. We kiss. A gentle, small, but amazing kiss. She walks back to her car and drives away. I do a couple fist pumps and then drive home. On my way home, I start to question what the fuck just happened. So much about myself to doubt, but so much greatness to it. What just happened? I'm driving home and Bohemian Rhapsody comes on. I have a Wayne's World moment. I will not let you go. Fast forward 3 months. We're still talking. I saw her tonight. We went to a creek again. We have gotten poison ivy from each other, been camping, shared great music. It has all been so great. I don't ever want to leave her. When we look back, she says I won her over when I wiped the bird shit off her leg. Needless to say, that bird was my wingman. Right. So I was in Shanghai for work, and decided to see what was happening on Tinder. I had to use a VPN to get around the Great Firewall. Anyway, matched with a girl and chatted briefly. She asked if I wanted to meet at her hotel for a drink. Alarm bells should have been ringing Willie. So I shower up, pop a breath mint, and smash out a Lucky Panda cigarette whilst flagging down a cab. I get to her hotel, and to my astonishment, she is the woman in the profile, waiting for me at the hotel bar. Have a few cocktails and things are going well. She's friendly, seems really into me. Then she asks if I want to go up to her room for some more drinks. Dear Diary, jackpot. So we make our way upstairs, and she doesn't waste any time and jumps straight in. When all was said and done, I thought, right, time to do the Shanghai shuffle. So I'm putting my clothes on and about to leave, and she weighs, "What about my money, baby?" My heart sinks quicker than a mob snitch swimming in concrete boots. I ask her what she means. Not for free sex, 3,000 renminbi. She replies, which is just shy of $500. Fuck me, I just rooted a hooker. So a heated argument begins, and I'm planning my escape, lest there be a pimp waiting outside. She starts screaming at me, and hotel security arrive on the scene, and hustle me down to the lobby. She follows in tow demanding her money, screaming, yelling, making a scene. Everyone's looking. I've really hit rock bottom here. Then I see someone get out of a cab outside the hotel entrance. I gap it and leap into the cab, telling the driver to drive in the worst Chinese possible. I probably said something offensive, but the power of the almighty yuan saves the day, and he speeds off, taking me back to my hotel, where I can hit a bottle of scotch and reflect on what the actual fuck just happened. So I shoplifted a hooker in Shanghai. The night I first met Emily, it felt like the universe had finally thrown me a bone. Her photos didn't do her justice. She was stunning, the kind of beautiful that makes everyone else in the room fade into the background. But it wasn't just her looks. She had a spark, a confidence, and a way of making you feel like you were the only person in the world she cared to talk to. I'd been on enough dates to know that kind of chemistry doesn't come around often, or ever. Our date was straightforward. Dinner at a cozy little Italian spot, followed by a walk through the park. Nothing fancy, but it didn't need to be. The conversation flowed effortlessly, punctuated by her light, melodic laugh and the occasional shy smile that seemed out of place for someone so assured. By the time we said goodnight, I felt like I'd won the lottery. The next day, when she texted me inviting me to her friend's birthday party downtown, I didn't even hesitate. Sure, I had work the next morning, but when she sweetened the deal by offering her place as a crash pad, I was sold. Call it what you will, naivety, optimism, or just plain bad judgment, but I was all in. The party was in full swing when we arrived. The bar was packed, music thumping just loud enough to make conversation a challenge, but not impossible. Emily introduced me to her circle of friends, a lively group that welcomed me with open arms. Drinks flowed freely, laughter filled the air, and for a moment I thought to myself, this is it. I could get used to this. Then, out of nowhere, the night took a sharp left turn. It started small, something I almost didn't notice. Emily's laugh grew a little too sharp, her smile a little too tight. She'd glance at me, then at her friends, her eyes narrowing in ways I couldn't quite decipher. I chalked it up to the alcohol, or maybe some inside joke I wasn't privy to. But then it escalated. One moment we were standing at the bar, her hand casually resting on my arm as we talked to one of her friends. The next, she was shouting. Not at me, not at anyone in particular, just shouting. A burst of anger that seemed to come out of nowhere. Heads turned, conversations stopped, and before I could piece together what the hell was happening, she stormed out of the bar. I just stood there, stunned. Her friends exchanged awkward glances, a few of them muttering under their breaths. One of them, a guy named Trent, leaned in and said, "You should probably go after her." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was absurd. "It's our second date," I said, shaking my head. Trent nodded, a smirk tugging at his lips. Fair enough. And that was that. The rest of the night passed in a blur. I stayed at the party, nursing a glass of water and chatting with her friends, who, to my surprise, seemed genuinely interested in getting to know me. There was no judgment, no awkwardness, just a group of people having a good time. By the time I made it back to Emily's place, she was nowhere to be found. Her car wasn't in the driveway, and the lights were off. I debated whether to text her, but something told me to just let it go. I crashed on her couch and left early the next morning, leaving a polite, "Thanks for the invite" text she never responded to. What happened next was unexpected, to say the least. Over the following weeks, I started getting texts from her friends. Not Emily, but her friends. They'd invite me out for drinks, trivia nights, and the occasional backyard barbecue. At first, I felt weird about it, like I was betraying some unspoken rule of dating. But they were persistent, and honestly, they were a great group of people. As for Emily, she faded into the background. I'd hear snippets of gossip here and there. Something about a new boyfriend, a falling out with one of the girls, a job change, but nothing concrete. One night, months after the party, I finally asked Trent about it. We were sitting around a fire pit in his backyard, beers in hand, when I said, "So, what's the deal with Emily? Does she ever talk about that night?" Trent chuckled, taking a long sip of his beer before answering. "Man, Emily's complicated. She has this thing where she expects people to chase after her. Like literally. She pulls that stunt all the time, storming off, making a scene. It's like a test or something." "A test?" I repeated, raising an eyebrow. "Yeah. She wants to see if you'll drop everything for her. If you'll prove you care enough to come running. It's exhausting." "Sounds like it," I said, shaking my head. Trent shrugged. "She's not a bad person, just a lot. Honestly, I think you dodged a bullet." As time went on, my connection to Emily's friends only grew stronger. We became a tight-knit group, the kind of people you could call at 2 a.m. when your car broke down or when you needed someone to talk to. They never brought up Emily, and neither did I. It was as if she'd been erased from the narrative, a footnote in a story that had taken on a life of its own. But every now and then, late at night when the world was quiet and my mind wandered, I'd think about her. About that night at the bar, the look in her eyes as she stormed out, the way she'd captivated me on our first date. I'd wonder what might have been if I'd chased after her, if I'd played along with her test. And then I'd remember the laughter, the camaraderie, the friendships I'd gained by staying put. In the end, I realized some people come into your life like fireworks, dazzling, explosive, impossible to ignore. But fireworks are fleeting, burning out as quickly as they appear. Oh man, I met a guy from Tinder a few months ago. He seemed really normal, was a responsible adult with a job who didn't still live at home, and was pretty good looking. He lived one town over in a fairly rural area, so we actually had some mutual acquaintances. So far, so good. He asked if I wanted to meet up at one of the 2 bars in town to get to know each other. IRL LOL. So the night we're supposed to meet, I get stuck picking up some slack at work for a clerk who claims she's sick, but is really hungover. I texted him to let him know I was going to be about 20 minutes late. I found out pretty late in the day, and knew he was probably either getting ready or on his way there. So I was extremely apologetic and offered to pick up the tab when I got there. He said no problem. He'd hang out and have a drink until I got there. Fast forward to my rushing to get the hell out of work, slapping on some makeup, and walking into the bar. I missed him at first. I had to do that awkward walk and search thing, but eventually I saw the guy. He looked just like his picture, only 10 years older and 80 pounds heavier. And he was sloppy. Not dirty sloppy, but like lolling his head around and really sweaty. I figured whatever, I already came this far. Plus, pretty sure he saw me. I pulled up a chair and got as far as, "Hey, I'm See Me Disco," before he started yell talking. "Glad you're here, damn, I've been waiting a while. Had to have more than one drink, ha ha ha." Okay, whatever. He was probably nervous and a little drunk. Not the best first date in the world, but I could get through it. So I start to apologize again for being late, and I swear to God, he cuts me off with, "Look, if we're gonna do this thing, I need you to be on time, okay? I hate waiting." Okay, sure. Sorry, you know how work is. Yeah, whatever, that's why I quit my bullshit job. Hey, you want a drink? Or what, I'm having a Jack and Coke, or 5, ah ha 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 ha. I order a soda, and he gets all defensive. What you're trying to get out of here soon, that's bullshit. I need to know where this is headed. It's our first fucking date. Don't dick me around here, I'm looking for something serious. Either we're doing this, or we're not. Hey, can I get another Jack and Coke? People were staring at us, and he was waving the hand he was holding his drink with, and spilling it everywhere. I've never done this before, but I literally pulled an "I gotta go to the bathroom" and bailed. And I've never been on another Tinder date. Can't handle another first date where the guy gets pissed drunk before I even show and starts screaming about where the relationship is headed. Oh, I'm super later to the Tinder Tales party, but I've got a good one, so hopefully someone sees this and gets a kick out of it. A few years ago, I get out of a bad relationship and immediately jump into online dating as a distraction because, of course. Day 1, I pair off with a girl who looks just like my ex. Bad sign, I know, but I can't help myself. She and I meet, and she's younger than I thought. Maybe 22, but she's bright and bubbly and fun. So instead of grabbing coffee, I go all in and ask her to come get dinner. We split a burger, we're chatty, everything's great. So afterward she says let's go party at a bar. Awesome, this is going really well. We walk next door, and I lay my card down, open a tab, and excuse myself to the restroom. I come back out and Tinder Girl has grabbed a booth, a couple of beers, and 6 shots. I asked, where did these come from? And she says, oh, I thought you wanted to party with me, winky face. I'm pretty inhibition-free, so I downed 2 of the shots, and the look in her eye went from sweet and bubbly to tiger stalking prey. So she follows suit and downs 2 shots and most of her beer. Then she inhales the last shot and tells me, your turn. Now, I'm a 220 pounds guy. I can hang. She's a 100 pounds waif of a girl, but I didn't know what to expect. Sometimes the little ones can surprise you. Well, we order 2 more beers, and within 10 minutes she's surprising me. She presses up against me in the booth and starts undoing my belt buckle and shoves her hand into my pants. So at like 8 p.m. in a half-empty bar, this girl straddles me in a booth, facing the window, and starts kissing my neck and giving me a hand job. And I'm looking around and all eyes are on us. There are even smokers watching from outside. I pull her off of me and tell her this is way too much. Let's just bring it down a peg. And then she says to me, straight-faced, I've been with at least 200 other guys and nobody has ever told me no before. 200 guys? Listen, I'm all for enjoying yourself, but that I can't get with. Not on a first date. Not with my dick just moments ago in your hand. So we're both pretty drunk at this point, and I tell her I have to leave. This is way too much, way too soon. I walk outside, and she is right behind me. I'm hailing myself a cab, and she grabs me and says, where do you think you're going? I told her, home. I've had enough for tonight. Then she tells me, I'm coming with you. I live in Long Island, and I don't even know how to get home from here. WTF? This girl came an hour and a half into the city on the train, and is now literally beyond taking care of herself. She's almost falling over, and now I feel responsible for her. There's no way I can just leave her here, although I'm sure she can find some other schmuck to fall for her shit. The problem with all of this is that my female friend Asterisk, not GF, is crashing at my place that night because she had a gig nearby early the next morning. So now I've got to bring this super drunk, super horny girl back to my place, after I promised my friend a nice quiet place to crash. Gah! So Tinder Girl is blackout, drunk in the cab, trying to grope at me whenever she comes to. Now I'm just swatting her away like a lovesick puppy. I get us into my place and crash into everything trying to get her onto the couch. Mind you, I'm drunker than I thought. I put Tinder Girl down, and I lay on the other side of the couch. I have to assume my friend is woken up and can hear everything, but she doesn't come out into the living room to check. The girl is already snoring, and I close my eyes. And I go on to have a great dream about hooking up with my ex-GF, until I'm suddenly waking up in the pitch black, and the fucking drunk girl has my dick out and is jerking me off. I come to, and realize her clothes are completely off, and she's trying to climb on top of me. In any other situation I'd be psyched. But all I'm thinking about is the other 200 guys she's pulled this with, and no fucking way I'm letting her get me inside her. I had to fight her off even though half of me wants to just give in. But she's 100 pounds, and it's laughably easy to push her still drunk, tiny, naked ass off of me. I pull my pants up, and she crumples to the other side of the couch and starts sobbing. She tells me, you don't understand how hard it's been since my husband left me. I miss him so much. I just wanted you to fuck me. Why is that so hard? Husband left you? You're 22. WTF is going on here? And of course, this is when my friend comes out of the bedroom. At 4 a.m., with a sobbing drunk, naked, 100 pounds girl on my couch. And my friend asks me, what did you do to her? I brought my friend into the other room and explained, but I'm sure it just sounded like, I fed this girl shots and brought her home, and she's sad because I keep letting her touch my dick. So my friend tells me, I thought you were better than this, and leaves early for her gig. So I take my clothes off, crawl into my now free bed, and of course, drunk Tinder Girl climbs in riot behind me and starts spooning me. We're both defeated and exhausted, and a little hungover at this point, so we both settled for middle ground. We made out for a while, and she didn't try to rape me, and we both fell asleep. The next day, the bright bubbly girl from the night before is back in her wits, and says, let's go get brunch. Yum. And grabs my hand to pull me out of bed. I got dressed, walked her downstairs and outside, and then immediately turned around and walked back inside and left her out there. And we never spoke again. It had been a while since I last had gotten some, so I tried Tinder to get some luck. Almost immediately I got a match. She lived 2 hours away, but was DTF, and that's a drive my dick was willing to take. We talk for a bit, and we exchange a few photos and decide to meet. I pick her up and immediately start noticing that something is off. She asks me to go to a coffee shop so we can talk before I intend to pound her into oblivion. She gets a triple shot espresso and downs it in seconds. She recommended we go to an abandoned cornfield and bone in my car. So she starts kissing me, and she's going at it like a Labrador. At one point she even licks the outside of my lips and my cheek, which made me slightly uncomfortable. I thought, fuck it, I may get my dick wet even if this girl is a freak. So we're both naked, I'm pounding away for what feels like forever, and after 20 minutes she's already finished, and I'm trying very, very hard to get there. But for some reason I can't. She tries going down on me, and hurricanes on my dick, teeth and all, grinding up my shaft. I ask her to hop back on so we can keep going. Right in the middle of reverse cowgirl, I hear a knock. I look to my left, and there's this scraggly old man with a double barrel tapping on my window. She doesn't hop off, but covers her chest as this man signals me to roll down my window. Considering he looks like a pissed-off hillbilly, and he has a shotgun, I oblige. The next thing that I hear rocked me to my soul, and I will never forget what he says. He cackles out with a serious face and a slow southern draw. This ain't no lover's lane. I start stammering an apology and push this crazy chick who is unfazed off of my dick, hop into the driver's seat, and floor it out of that cornfield. She just quits talking to me at that point, puts her clothes on, and just stares out the window while I'm going 60 down a gravel road in nothing but a white t-shirt and a soggy condom on my limp dick. We stop by some abandoned shack, and I clean up while she continues to stare out the window. When I get back in, she tells me to drop her off at the DQ down the road. I'm happy to oblige and very politely kick her the fuck out of my car. She throws a $20 at me on her way out the door, goes to the garbage can and just vomits a torrent or brown-yellow puke all over the sidewalk and the side of the can. I nope the fuck out of there, confused, blue-balled, and scared. I've never heard from her since then, and have never used Tinder after that. So this was like 9 years ago, so before a lot of these online dating things. So believe it or not, we actually met on Xbox Live. And coincidentally, she lived like 45 minutes away from me. I was 19 at the time. She said she was 16, and she was hot, so I never much questioned things. We hit it off right away when we met online, when I was dicking around with one of my friends. So since we hit it off, we continued talking. It got along even better, video chats and whatnot. Finally, I get some free time, and my friend and I agree to meet up with her where she lives. We meet up, all three of us go out to a movie, I kiss her goodnight, we go on our way. We continue talking like normal, find time again in about a month, and this time my friend brings his girlfriend, and we have kind of a double date with a movie again. On the way back to her place, we basically devoured each other in the back seat of my friend's car. His girlfriend actually made an annoyed comment to me about it on the way back home, once we dropped her off. Anyway, time goes on, and about 3 weeks later she tells me it's her birthday. So I'm look, cool, you're turning 17 then? I'll see if we can do something. That's when she drops the bombshell. Actually, I'm turning 16. And the second she said that, it was like someone tied an anchor to my heart. I had a mini freak out in my head, but eventually managed to play it off with mild annoyance for her lying to me. I mean, she was hot. Drifting past our year-long relationship, which started a few months after that, and which I think only lasted so long because she liked having an older boyfriend to show off to her friends. We stayed friends after our breakup. About 2 years later we met up twice, and the second time when I was driving her back home we stopped off for some breakfast, and sat down at some breakfast place I can't recall. We started talking about the old days. We both had moved past each other, so it was more like just laughing about good times we had. And eventually she drops on me. I think my favorite part of our relationship was the fact that I could have ruined your life if I wanted to. And she was not even close to the craziest ex I've ever had. Hit me up on Tinder, and we quickly exchanged numbers. After numerous Snapchats and 3 hours have passed, she asked to meet up at an IHOP parking lot, an hour away. It was 2 a.m. at the time, and I had nothing else going on for the rest of the night, so I decided I'd give it a shot. I knew from the Snapchats that she wasn't a petite girl by any means, but I figured I'd give it a shot. It wasn't my first Tinder date, but this one was certainly the quickest first message to meet up I've had. On my hour drive over to IHOP, she informs me she brought her friend along to make sure I wasn't going to rape or hack up her body. Turned me off a little bit, because I assumed she would be a major obstacle for my ultimate goal for that night. So I finally pull into the parking lot, and I see her and her friend leaning up against the hood of their car. I'd be lying if I said she was under 200 pounds in all of her 5 feet 1 inch frame. I circled the building a couple times, trying to talk myself into leaving, but I had just driven an hour at 2 a.m. I wasn't going to just turn around and head back home, no way. So I parked next to them after just giving myself the pep talk of my adult life. We exchange formalities, and I get introduced to her friend. I understand strength in numbers, but the guy wasn't stopping me from doing anything malicious if that was my intent. He was about 5 feet 6 inches, 130 pounds. I'm 6 feet 2 inches, 210 pounds. He pretty much just looks at me and gets back in his car, and the ogre and myself make some awkward small talk outside of the car for a little while. So I get to the point of the conversation where things start getting heated. She initially asked me to make out with her in the back seat of her car where her friend is sitting in the passenger seat. I shot that down real quick. She wasn't comfortable getting into my car for whatever reason. After she declined my request for my car, she wouldn't have fit anyway. At the time I was driving an Acura RSX. She invites me back to her brother's house where she is currently living. Instant red flag for me. I ask what's wrong with my car. She said she doesn't too and to stop pressing it, lol. I had to run so many different scenarios in my head before I could give her an answer. In the parking lot she started feeling me up, talking dirty in my ear, anything she could to convince me to come home with her. I was lucky enough to think with my brain instead of my dick and turned down her offer. Needless to say, she was livid that I could turn her down. I quickly got back in my car and left before she could say anything else. I think my favorite part of the story was the text I got about 10 minutes after I left. You could have been balls deep in my pussy right now, and she sent me a pictures of the most vile vagina I've seen in my life. I won. Ugh, I have one and I wish I didn't. So I talked to this guy for a while. I was still very new to online dating and hadn't learned a few of the basic rules yet, like meeting for just coffee on the first date. Anyway, he seemed pretty normal when we spoke, and he told me he was also an accountant like me. He invited me out for dinner and a movie, and I thought sure, why not? So he picks me up from my place. Second no, that's a mistake I'll never make again. And I swear before we even leave my street I realize he's a bit weird, and I'm not really keen at all. Whatever, I'm here now, so may as well get dinner and sit through a movie. In the 20-minute drive there, he tells me about his job, which sounds absolutely nothing like accounting at all. Like he doesn't even know what an accountant is, his dating history, and his last girlfriend, who he had dated for 3 whole weeks, who was an alcoholic, still spoke to her ex and brought her kid along to their romantic weekend away. So for dinner, he takes me to the drive-thru of McDonald's. Not even the walk-in, the drive-thru. He then informs me the movie we are going to see is actually a movie marathon of the last 3 Fast and the Furious movies. Oh, and it's also at the drive-ins, fuck. At this point, I'm wondering how the hell I'm going to get out of this. So we drive from McDonald's to the drive-ins, which is only about 10 minutes away. Before we even get there, he's told me about how often he and his ex used to have sex and asked me in my relationships how often I had it. Obviously, I told him I didn't want to talk about that stuff on a first date. I'm thinking get me the fuck out of here. The movie starts, and I'm practically leaning out of the window to stay as far away from him as I can. He puts his hand on my leg, and I push it off, and he says, "What? I'm not gonna finger you, babe." I'm seriously considering just making a run for it, but I had no way home, and I had just moved to my city, so I didn't know anyone to call to come and get me. After awkwardly sitting through 2 of the 3 movies, I tell him it's late, and I need to go home 'cause I have to work in the morning. I didn't, and he says no worries, he'll take me home. So on the most awful drive back to my house, he tells me he's had a great time and asked me if I want to be his girlfriend. Thinking I better just say yes so he doesn't ditch me in the middle of nowhere, I say, "Yeah, maybe, let's see how it goes." And he says cool, next time he'll take me to meet his mom and dad, then tells me about how his mom bought his ex of 3 weeks a really expensive diamond bracelet and how she never gave it back when she left, and how much of a bitch she was to his mom. Finally, we pull up in my street, and I practically run out of the car saying thanks, talk to you later, bye, and bolt into my house. I immediately block him and remove him from Facebook and Tinder, mistake 3. Thinking thank God that's over. He messages me not even 15 minutes later asking why I blocked him. I try politely to say that he's way too full on, and I'm not interested, and he replies with a tirade of this is the third date this week that's gone wrong, and direct quote, "Fine, I guess I'll go fuck 17-year-olds. I'm never dating again." The kicker? He messages me on Facebook again a few months later with, "Hey babe, what's happening?" And when I reply with, "Are you kidding me?" He's like, "What? We haven't even met, yet why are you being a bitch?" To which I tell him that in fact I had the distinct displeasure of being stuck in a car with him for over 6 hours, and to never message me again. Sorry it's long, but I'm really glad to get that off my chest. Ugh, I have one and I wish I didn't. So I talked to this guy for a while. I was still very new to online dating, and hadn't learned a few of the basic rules yet, like meeting for just coffee on the first date. Anyway, he seemed pretty normal when we spoke, and he told me he was also an accountant like me. He invited me out for dinner and a movie, and I thought sure, why not? So he picks me up from my place. Second no, that's a mistake I'll never make again. And I swear before we even leave my street I realize he's a bit weird, and I'm not really keen at all. Whatever, I'm here now, so may as well get dinner and sit through a movie. In the 20-minute drive there, he tells me about his job, which sounds absolutely nothing like accounting at all. Like he doesn't even know what an accountant is, his dating history, and his last girlfriend, who he had dated for 3 whole weeks, who was an alcoholic, still spoke to her ex and brought her kid along to their romantic weekend away. So for dinner, he takes me to the drive-thru of McDonald's. Not even the walk-in, the drive-thru. He then informs me the movie we are going to see is actually a movie marathon of the last 3 Fast and the Furious movies. Oh, and it's also at the drive-ins, fuck. At this point, I'm wondering how the hell I'm going to get out of this. So we drive from McDonald's to the drive-ins, which is only about 10 minutes away. Before we even get there, he's told me about how often he and his ex used to have sex, and asked me in my relationships how often I had it. Obviously, I told him I didn't want to talk about that stuff on a first date. I'm thinking get me the fuck out of here. The movie starts, and I'm practically leaning out of the window to stay as far away from him as I can. He puts his hand on my leg, and I push it off, and he says, "What? I'm not gonna finger you, babe." I'm seriously considering just making a run for it, but I had no way home, and I had just moved to my city, so I didn't know anyone to call to come and get me. After awkwardly sitting through 2 of the 3 movies, I tell him it's late, and I need to go home 'cause I have to work in the morning. I didn't, and he says no worries, he'll take me home. So on the most awful drive back to my house, he tells me he's had a great time, and asked me if I want to be his girlfriend. Thinking I better just say yes so he doesn't ditch me in the middle of nowhere, I say, "Yeah, maybe let's see how it goes." And he says cool, next time he'll take me to meet his mom and dad, then tells me about how his mom bought his ex of 3 weeks a really expensive diamond bracelet, and how she never gave it back when she left, and how much of a bitch she was to his mom. Finally, we pull up in my street, and I practically run out of the car saying thanks, talk to you later, bye, and bolt into my house. I immediately block him and remove him from Facebook and Tinder, mistake 3. Thinking thank God that's over. He messages me not even 15 minutes later asking why I blocked him. I try politely to say that he's way too full on, and I'm not interested, and he replies with a tirade of this is the third date this week that's gone wrong, and direct quote, "Fine, I guess I'll go fuck 17-year-olds. I'm never dating again." The kicker? He messages me on Facebook again a few months later with, "Hey babe, what's happening?" And when I reply with, "Are you kidding me?" He's like, "What? We haven't even met, yet why are you being a bitch?" To which I tell him that in fact I had the distinct displeasure of being stuck in a car with him for over 6 hours, and to never message me again. Sorry it's long, but I'm really glad to get that off my chest. First week on Tinder, and I matched with this dime. And when I say dime, I mean her Tinder pictures could make grown men cry. Let's call her Molly. Molly and I texted for about 2 to 3 weeks. We'd talk about random stuff, flirt with each other, but never anything sexual. During that time we also texted about trying to hang out, but were unable to do so due to our extremely different schedules. Usually after a couple times of trying to coordinate plans with someone new with no results, I would normally just give up and stop trying to force it, because it's just not meant to be, as cheesy as that sounds. But for this girl, I would have eaten Skittles out of her asshole. And she was a pretty good conversationalist via text messages too. Anyways, after about 3 weeks we both have a Friday night available, for which I told her I'd take her out for dinner and drinks, so that we could finally meet in person and get to know each other. I chose this new bar/restaurant that opened up downtown that's pretty chill and has some bomb-ass craft beer and food. She told me she loves craft beer. Worked out pretty nicely too, since we lived about half an hour from each other and downtown was right between us. So earlier that evening I do my pre-date routine. Workout, sauna, steam room, shave, shower. I then head downtown full of excitement like a fat kid at a cake buffet. When I got there I texted her and went inside. I looked around for her when I felt my phone vibrate from her replying that she will be there in 5 minutes. So I sat down at the bar, ordered a beer and waited. About 5 minutes later, I am drinking my beer and scrolling through Instagram on my phone when I feel a tap on my right shoulder. I eagerly turn my head around to see a girl who looked like her favorite class in high school was lunch. This girl is about 5 feet 11 inches and 260 pounds. I am 6'5" and 215 for reference. Hi, I'm Molly. It's nice to finally meet you. She sticks her hand out as if to shake mine, and I reflexively stick my hand out and we shake hands, and she then proceeds to sit down next to me. At this point, I'm more confused than a chameleon in a bag of Skittles. Those next 10-ish seconds were the longest in my life. I looked at her, and my brain could recognize her mouth moving, but I could not hear anything she was saying over the deafening white noise of my shock. Next thing I know, I blurt out, "What the fuck," in a calm but stern manner. To make a long story short, over the next 10 minutes, she told me that she was sorry, and she thought guys wouldn't swipe right on her if they saw real pictures, but the conversations we had were all her. She said once I'd get to know her, I'd see that she was really fun. I calmly made it clear to her I thought what she did was not cool, and I was intensely disappointed. In the end, I decided our text conversations were pretty entertaining, and I also feel kinda bad for this girl, and I didn't want to be an asshole and leave her right there. So I chose to make the best out of a shitty situation and let it go. We ate, we drank, we laughed. At the end of the night, we walked back to our cars and I told her the whole "I had fun, have a good night, drive safe" kind of thing. She told me she had some good wine back at her place. At some point during the night I told her that I never really drank wine, but was just getting into it over the past month or so. I respectfully declined and made some excuse about having to go to the farmer's market with my sister in the morning. That night, and every damn night since then, she has been sending me naked pictures on Snapchat. They are terrifying, but for some reason I can't stop opening them. Does OkCupid count? Here's an excerpt from my first OKC date. Well, so, it's weird, you know. You talk to someone for a minute. She seems cool, nothing special but cool enough. She looks cute from her pics. You think, well, why not? The fuck am I doing on here if not going out with the PPL who I meet? So you ask her out. She's super into it. Feels good. She stresses that she just wants to chill. I say Monday's the earliest I can do it. She says great, that'll be real chill. You talk a little less as the days go by, tension building. You start to talk specifics of what to do and where to go. She explains she doesn't drive. I mean, yeah, okay, that's not a problem, I guess. I'll pick you up. But naturally she doesn't want to give a random dude her address. Totally understand. She gives a random street corner to pick her up on. Yeah, okay, I get it. Being a gentleman, I say that I'd hate for her to wait in the cold. Let me get there, then I'll text you. You slap on the clothes you own that seem the most decently presentable. Flex in the mirror a couple times. Clean the FUCK out of your car and head out. You park at the corner. Text her. Then flip through Spotify to be sure your next few songs aren't too hardcore. You see her walking up, and yeah, cool, she looks like her pic. Super petite, hair's different, not better but different. Get out of the car to greet her. Say some joke about it being too cold to be waking. Say hi and sorta reintroduce yourselves for real this time. Fuck it, let's hug. Whoa, that was an awkward hug. Sorry I'm so awkward. Oh, it's okay, I'm kinda nervous too. Get back in the car. Heat's on full blast since she just walked in the cold. Sit there for a second trying to talk, but she won't look at you, just out the window. She's talking and you're getting some laughs, but she won't look at you. Okay, let's head to the movies. Turns out she's a shift manager at Noodles and Company. Oh, okay, yeah, that's cool. How's that? Oh, you don't like it? You've been there 3 years? Oh, you flunked out of school? Oh, well, okay, cool. Let's go to the movie. Oh, you're extremely particular about where we sit. That's kinda cool, I like movies too. It's great to get real into the... What are you doing? Oh, you like to try out different seats before picking one? Cool, yeah, you're super dedicated to the experience. Watch movie. Something smells funny, but cigarettes have dulled my senses. Also, I can't pinpoint what the smell actually is. Already over whatever this is. Leave movie. Well, that was fun. It's so cold out, and that movie kinda drained me. Still wanna get food? You do? Okay, let's go. Oh, you're super particular about food? No Mexican, okay, no problem. Oh, no Asian either? Okay, well, we're passing Carytown. How about the Portrait House? Never been. Okay, I remember it being cool. Get inside. Totally empty. Sit down. The menus are different and say the Nile in huge letters. Flip through the menu. Seems weird, but just decide on something with beef in it and start looking at the beer menu. Notice she is frantically searching the menu. Yeah, the menu is different than when I last came. You able to find anything you like? No. Why not? Oh, no spicy food. Oh, like no spicy whatsoever, eh? Okay, well, let's ask the waiter. Hey, how are you? What's your least spicy item? Ugh. The Portrait House has new owners? And it's all Ethiopian food now. Cool, that's interesting. Oh, all Ethiopian food is spicy? Interesting. Okay, we'll need some more time. Still not looking at me. Not even looking at the menu. Just looking down and pouting. Hey, I remember from your profile, you really like French fries. New York Deli across the street has really good fries. Wanna go there? Silence. Yeah. Okay, it's alright. Let's go. Get to deli. Totally empty. Sit at table. She starts acting weird. Hey, you okay? It's just, I work in hospitality, and there's no one here, but those 2 tables over there are still dirty. It's ridiculous. Oh yeah, totally. I worked in a restaurant, and it's just they shouldn't do that. I have 5 roommates, and I get mad when they leave dirty silverware in the sink. Oh wow, 5 roommates? That's cool, always have someone to hang out with, I guess. Make decent casual conversation as she scans the menu frantically. I don't even look at it. Waiter comes over, and I order a beer and an Italian sub. She gets a Sprite, then explains in awkward detail how she wants her well-done burger with only lettuce and cheese to be. Great, I'm glad you found something you like. Make more conversation. I'm keeping her talking. At this point, I don't even know why I'm bothering. Beer comes. I can't drink beer or wine. Oh really, that sucks, yeah, they just taste like fermentation. Really? What does fermentation taste like? And wine is just rotten grapes. Huh, I hadn't thought of it like that, but that's a valid point. Internally, my eyes are rolling around like they're in a washing machine. It's just, I don't get acquired tastes. Like, why would you force yourself to like something that isn't good? Not wanting to start some kind of debate that I'd get out of hand on. Totally. I just like beer from the get-go, so I know why PPL force it on themselves. Food comes. I eat a fry. She picks one up. Looks at it. Takes her glasses off. Looks more. Brushes the salt and pepper of it. Takes a bite. They're okay. Good, glad we found some food that works for you. Stares at her burger. Picks it up. Pulls a piece of bread off that has a tiny burn in it. Since we just left that other place, I'm gonna pretend that's a char mark and not mold. Well, I mean, it's totally from the burger. That spot was right under the meat. Maybe. She takes a bite. Chews, ponders, swallows. Too salty. Take a huge gulp of beer. Ask her about her family. She talks about her dad a lot. Ask her what her dad does. She dodges the question. She talks about her cats a bunch. 2 cats. They stay in her room. Don't you have 5 roommates? Yeah, but me and my babies stay in my room away from everyone. Cool. Silence. Don't even care. She sniffs the air. I just gotta say, something in here smells like cat piss, and I would know. Oh, it does. Is that what I was smelling? Is it constant, or like when the waiter comes by? Constant. That's weird. Let me get the check. Check, please. Yeah, 2 boxes. It's cool, whatever, just run the card. Here. Go. Drive back listening to the horrors of working with noodles. Definite cat piss smell filling the car. Park at her place and chuckle, wondering how she'll handle this. She immediately opens the door, but sits there looking at the ground. Exchange pleasantries. Ask her about the movie and food. She's very thankful to either me, or maybe the ground, I can't tell. She says she'll text me with other thoughts on the movie, and maybe we can do this again sometime. Cool. She gets out and shuts the door. Literally out of sheer instinct, drive away extremely quickly. Realizing now that probably was obvious. Go grab beer and cigarettes. Smoke and drink one down outside your apartment while laughing at the sordid state of affairs you find yourself in. Phew, it was good to get that out. Well, I showed up to a restaurant I had made a reservation for. Neutral place is always good. It's 15 minutes past the time we're supposed to meet. Damn. Must have flaked out on me. I had already set aside calories and planned on having a nice meal, so I went and ordered for myself. Waitress was chatting me up a bit since I was alone, and I assumed that she felt bad for me. Thought I was stood up, told her about the online thing. Get a text that she's running late and will be there in 15. This is already after being 30 minutes late. Okay, sure, why not? I tell her I'm already inside, seated waiting. I'm snacking on some of those red and green tortilla chip thingies and doing the word search on the kids' menu with a red crayon, favorite color, when a woman approaches and greets me by my name. I look up, confused, smiling, but confused and caught off guard. I respond with a hello and a short pause. You are OH. Then it dawned on me. This whale-ish monstrosity that looks nothing like the photos on her profile is my date. I'm a tactful person and tend to be respectful of people, but this was blatant. I didn't recognize you. You look much different than your photos. She played it off like it was nothing. Said those were older photos. I told her she was welcome to join me for the meal. After a little bit of intro, I asked her to run me through her train of thought of how she thought tonight would go down. What exactly are you expecting to happen tonight? You already started off on a bad note with lying about your looks, and you're extremely late. Never have I seen a smile turn to a scowl as fast as when I said that. I was legitimately curious. Seriously, what are people thinking will happen when they lie about how they look? Physical attraction is a significant factor, and we can all argue about being shallow or an asshole all we want, but the truth is we all factor in looks at least a little bit. She became loud, rowdy, called me things and then left. I stayed and finished my guacamole spicy burger and word search. Why was antelope so hard for me to find? I never did get an answer out of her. I did, however, learn that the waitress had a boyfriend. Oh well, that's my worst experience. Could be a lot worse. I've had women that I met up with who didn't really have body photos, only faces. I've gambled and lost a few times. What's the worst that can happen? I suppose I could end up in a bathtub, unconscious, and having my organs harvested for the black market. That's pretty bad. Talked to a girl for a bit with a lot of cute pics. She liked me, and I seemed to like her, so we met up. Juice place, really healthy stuff and hipster vibe, cool place to meet. We stayed for an hour and really got along well. I wore way too much cologne like a dork, so we both made fun of that and had a good ice-breaking laugh. After an hour of chit-chat, we're clicking, so we take off and walk around. She takes me to a rent-a-hot tub place, which I didn't even know existed. I didn't have a bathing suit with me, so I just stripped to my underwear, and so did she. She was petite and had an amazing body. I was wearing athletic underwear which, if you don't know, will hug every contour when wet. So we get in and chill for what seems like an hour, kind of get close and touchy. Someone else comes in, we were in the public one, which is bigger. So we decide to leave. I get up and of course had a raging erection, so I and the woman who was about to get in are all looking at it. Then we all kind of bust out laughing. It was hilarious. She looks at me and says, maybe we should take him home. Kaching. We got back to my place and crash in my room, had 2 roommates. On my bed, which was my first big purchase after college, super comfy with a huge comforter that I absolutely loved. We round the bases 3 times and she stays the whole weekend. All we did was Netflix and bang. It was incredible, still some of the best sex I've ever had. Drove her home Monday morning early, so she could get to work. We text back and forth and meet up the next weekend. She wants to bring her friend along, which I'm totally cool with. I drive, she doesn't, so I met her at a city bar and spot her in a sexy dress with her friend. Her friend comes up to me and says she's already had a lot to drink. I'm cool with that, so I start catching up. Meanwhile, she's been slamming red wine all night. She's very charismatic and hot, so she's talking to all of these older guys and getting them to buy her more red wines, which are coming almost as fast as she's putting them down. Randomly, we meet another girl at the bar who is backpacking across the US from Germany. Odd. Then one of the older guys starts talking to our new friend, and they get all makey-outy in the bar. So it's now 2 a.m., and I let loose that I have a hookah and a back porch like a dummy. Everyone starts saying, let's go to your place. And drunk me is like, yeah, my roommates will love that. So I slam some waters as hard as I can and sober up in the next hour or so, and off we go. Me driving the 5 of us, my girl in the passenger seat, her friend, the German drifter, and some old guy in the back seat, already making out. About halfway to my place, I'm hearing a lot of giggling and seeing lots of skin in my rear view. Cool, I guess. Her friend even seems to not mind. The whole way, my date seems to be coming to some strange terms in her head and starts grabbing the wheel and jerking hard. She's petite. I'm a medium to big guy, but she is getting some demon strength into these jerks. So right away I'm like, WTF. And of course they're all laughing in the back. Then out of nowhere she leaps over the center console and lands in my lap, fully blocking my view of the road, straddling me and starts making out with me, her foot jammed on mine on the gas pedal. Now it starts to click that this may not have been a great idea. So in an effort to regain control of my car, I launch her as gently as I can back into the passenger seat and tell her to stay. Meanwhile, clothes are flying and laughs from the back tell me a pseudo-threesome is taking place back there. I don't know how I wasn't pulled over. Then my date starts moaning and making very strange twitchy motions with her eyes closed, and seems to be writhing. Now I'm very freaked with the circumstances and yell to her friend, to which she responds, "She's just having a seizure. She gets those sometimes." WTF. We finally get to my place, and at this point I'm ready to call it a night. We burst into my place, and they're making a ton of noise. First things first, I put my date in my bed on her side, turn the lights out, planning to check on her frequently. She's asleep before she is the pillow. The drifter and old guy are on my porch already lighting up and making out again. So me and the friend go join them. Now, I want to sleep, but I'm not about to just let three strangers have the run of the place. But I'm also too polite to say GTFO. So I hang and smoke hookah, and at every chance try to get them to leave. No deal. Hours go by until I finally call them a taxi, and it shows up at 5:30 a.m. My roommates get up for work and are very angry as I'm shuffling these PPL out of the front door. Date's friend asleep on the couch, date in my bed, place a complete wreck. I finally lie down on the couch. It should be said that I actually did check on my date each hour to make sure she was okay, which she was. I wake up 2 hours later, roommate's gone to work. Her friend is shaking me, saying something I can't really understand, because sleep. I see her motion to my room, which gets me up fast, and I hurriedly go into my room, fearing the worst. Luckily there my date is in my t-shirt and gym shorts, and there is all of the red wine she drank the night before pooled on my bed and seeping into the comforter. I have never seen so much vomit, and I've worked 300 plus PPL whale watches as a deckhand. She starts apologizing profusely and asks how she can make it up to me, maybe anal. I still regret not taking her up on that, but at that point I was just glad she wasn't dead and wanted them out of my house. I drove them home, let her keep the clothes, and went back to start the cleanup. $400 comforter and a huge stain later, plus 6 hours of cleaning the place and 3 days of airing and cleaning my mattress later with some insane memories. My roommates were not happy, but forgave me when they saw the love of my life, my bed, tarnished the way it was. There was this girl that seemed really cool, and she invited me to go swing dancing with her. I told her that I'd never gone swing dancing before, and though I'd eventually like to try it, I was way too nervous/uncomfortable to do that for a first date. I at least need to woo you with my wit and charm, so you're on my side when I inevitably embarrass myself on the dance floor. Well, somehow she convinced me to be adventurous enough to accept. Besides, how hard could it be? I play music, so I have rhythm, and there's a lesson an hour before the dance starts. So I agree to meet her on the day of the dance at 7 p.m. for the lesson/warm-up and dance. Then we plan to go get dinner. I drive the hour and a half to where the dance is and show up at 6:55 p.m., overcoming my habit of being late everywhere I go. I don't see her outside, and after poking my head inside and still not seeing her, I decide to give her a call. Turns out she and her sister are still getting ready, and their ride is running late, so they'll be there at 8 o'clock. I was a little stunned by how offhandedly she mentions that she'll be an hour late, but doesn't tell me until I get there and call her myself. I seriously considered leaving, because I was so terrified of dancing. I only agreed to come because she assured me that she would be there to make me feel comfortable, and I trusted her. But I decided to be a bigger person and go inside, learn from the lesson, and impress her with my newly found swing skills when she arrives for the dance. Turns out dancing can be difficult, even for musicians. Thankfully, I got to practice with several kind, helpful partners, and I finally got the basics down pretty well by the time 8 p.m. rolled around. The lights dimmed, people paired off, and the dance began. I looked all around and couldn't find my date. Let's call her Lisa, okay? So I went and sat down where I could see the door, figuring she would be here any minute, and pulled out my phone for entertainment. I texted Lisa to let her know exactly where I was sitting, so she wouldn't have any trouble finding me. I am a pretty patient person, and I had struck up a fine text conversation with a friend who lives in the area, so I wasn't bothered by the time passing. Eventually it got to be 8:45, and I was beginning to become frustrated that Lisa was 45 minutes late after already being an hour late. I texted her, asking if she had any trouble or if she was still coming. No response. I then texted my friend in the area to verify that I wasn't being unreasonable by getting frustrated. He said most people would probably have left by that point. I gave her until 9:15 p.m. before I left. I looked around for her one last time, then called up my friend to go get a burger, so my trip wouldn't be a complete waste. I was very confused, and a whirlwind of possibilities went through my head. Was something wrong? Is she safe? Did I say something to make her go radio silent on me like that? Was she playing a game, having me drive 90 minutes with no intention to meet me? Was she even real? I was really digging for an answer. After a 15-minute drive, I pick up my friend, and we sit down at a fast food restaurant to eat. At this point it's about 9:30 p.m., and I get a text message from Lisa. She seems annoyed by my asking where she was, and she says that she's been there since 8:15 p.m. It turns out she got to the dance, and didn't see me immediately, so she put her stuff down and danced with a random partner. Someone must have blocked my view of the door when she walked in. No explanation for the fact that I told her exactly where I was sitting. I was flabbergasted and again asked my friend to verify my sanity. We are both of the opinion that it's typically the second person who arrives that should make an effort to find the first person, especially when they have been told where to find them. But she literally came in, didn't see me immediately, and thus forgot all about me, dancing with strangers. I couldn't believe I'd wasted the gas, the day, and the 2 hours waiting for a date that wouldn't happen. As I continued my meal with my friend, I tried to ask Lisa why she didn't check where I had told her I would be, but I got no response. After having a fun time with my friend, I begin to drive home and, around midnight, get a text from Lisa. So I pulled over at a gas station and read it. Turns out that her ex-boyfriend showed up to the dance, so she had been sitting outside talking with him. And great news, she says. They're working out their problems and getting back together. Now I'm not a spiteful person, so I'm happy that she sees this as a good thing, and I would never try to come between them if that is what she wants. But I was so shocked at the fact that she never once apologized for essentially ditching me at this dance that she knew I was nervous about and having me drive 3 hours round trip for nothing. So I wished her the best of luck and finished driving home. It was weird, it was recent, and I'm still processing it all. It's kind of got me nervous about using Tinder in the future. TLDR, invited to a dance. She shows up, but doesn't even acknowledge me and dances with others. I leave, thinking I've been stood up. She later meets up with her ex and rekindles their relationship. Basically tells me to fuck off, because she's happy with him. At least I had a really good burger with a friend, so the trip wasn't a waste.